Welcome back to All Things Ghostly. Yes, this is my make-do microphone. Anyway, hello and welcome back on this fine October day of spooky season. I'm blending in with the background hella because I'm wearing a black shirt, but who's gonna say something? Who's going to say something? No one. That's what I thought. Anyway, welcome back, and I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. Now to tackle episode number 2. Yes, today is the big, the bad, the ugly, the questionable of my paranormal experiences, even more so than the first episode, which if you have not watched the first episode, go watch it, because it's just all about my little ghost girlfriend that lives in my room in my home. So yeah, very interesting. But today, our topic of choice is what happened to me after my dad died, in regards to him, because that bitch haunted me. He really did. And now I'm kind of like, Dad, why would you do that to me? Because I don't know. And actually, I was gonna say that I wouldn't do that to you, but I would, because I think I'll be the ghost to haunt, but the good haunt, definitely the good type of haunt. Because here's the thing, like I said in my last episode, that little ghost girl comforted me. She was my best pal. She was my little friend. So yes, I would haunt people, but in a good way, in a cute way. Anyway, but I'm not gonna lie, the stuff that I experienced after my dad died, it definitely wasn't all fun. It definitely creeped me out a lot. It definitely just, I think it solidified more than anything that I had ever experienced that ghosts are real, babe. I don't know how to put it other than that. They're here with us. They definitely are. So let's go ahead and get on into this sequence of events, because it might take a minute to get through. So yeah, basically, just to give a standard little timeline here, my dad passed away in August of 2017. And I was 15 when he passed away, just about to turn 16, because I start Libra season on September 23rd. Anyway, so yeah, he died in August of 2017. This was right before my senior year. So a little bit of a tough time getting through that, but hey, we live. So basically, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward to the day. That was a honk, and that was very rude. The day of his viewing and his funeral. So they were 2 separate days, but I don't know if anything paranormally happened to me the day of his viewing, which I don't think it did. But I was really messed up that day. Basically, my dad and I hadn't been talking for the last year and a half of his life. Just normal family drama, kind of angsty teenager, questionable parenting type vibes. Nothing too unheard of. So that whole day of his viewing, I was just kind of off on my own, processing everything, not in the best mood. But the day of his actual funeral and burial was when everything started happening, and it is crazy stuff. Basically, all throughout the day of the funeral and even the viewing, I was afraid to go up to him at first at the viewing, just because, again, just unfinished business type of vibes. But I did end up going right at the end of the viewing there, and just kind of talking to him, touching his hand, kissing his forehead, all the normal things that you would do. And fast forward to the day of his funeral, I was doing the same thing through that day as well, just to clarify. Obviously, you had the ceremony or whatever it's called, where people are talking and singing and all that type of stuff. And then afterward, the immediate family went up to pay respects, and then everyone else kind of said their goodbyes. So same thing when I went up to pay my respects after the actual funeral service. Same thing. Touched his hand, kissed his forehead. Nothing happened. I didn't feel anything. Then at the end, when everyone finished saying their goodbyes, we all went back up as the final goodbye. And obviously I was hysterically crying, but I didn't want to walk away. So my sister and my brother left. My mom was still with me, and then eventually she kind of left off as well. And basically it was just me, and everyone else was outside by the hearse waiting for the funeral like workers to put him in the hearse, like the casket or the coffin, whatever you want to call it. And so it was just me and two of those guys that were about to carry it or wheel it. I forget how they did it. I think it was on, I don't know, because again, I was like blacked out of everything else that was happening around me. But whatever they do, they were ready to transport him from the inside outside to the hearse. So it was just us three there, nobody else. And I was just bawling my eyes out hysterically, and I didn't want to leave. I just felt this like pull to me that I literally couldn't step away, and I wanted to step away so that I could stop crying, I could collect myself, I could get on with the day, all that good stuff, but I literally could not leave. It felt like there was almost like a rope pulling me to stay in that same spot and to not leave yet. And so I was just standing there crying, and there was one time this guy, like this, during one of these minutes, because again, I don't know how long this was. It felt like eternity, but it literally could have been 10 minutes for all I know, but I felt like it was longer than that. He asked me during the first couple minutes, he said, "Are you okay? Like, you know, take your time here, and I want you to feel like you can completely stay here as long as you want, but I just want to make sure you're okay." So, that kind of broke my trance a little bit, but I went right back into it, and I finally told myself, I was like, okay, we have to break this off now. Like, this is the final second. This is the final goodbye. So as the last thing I did, I bent down and kissed his forehead again. And all of a sudden, I got this electric jolt in my body. And it was so bad. Like, I vocally went like a little bit of like a pushback. Like, I made a vocal sound, and again the guys were like, "Are you okay? Like, are you good? What's going on?" And I was like, "No, I'm fine, I'm okay." And then just from pure shock, I mean, again, I was like kind of stiff and like, whoa kind of vibe. And then I turned around and I walked away, and again, it wasn't scary shock, like I wasn't scared, but again, it's like, what just happened? Because I just felt the most intense electric jolt when I bent down and made contact with him for the last time. Didn't think any more of it, still kind of crying. People were trying to comfort me, and again, here's the thing, I'm gonna be honest, when I am in a moment like that, the worst thing that someone could probably do is come up to me, because I hate it when people see me cry. It is one of the worst things to me, like most embarrassing, because I think I just feel a little bit too vulnerable in that moment, that I'm like, dude, my emotions are too vulnerable to be tampered with right now. Just get away, leave me alone, whatever. And everyone obviously like grieves different and reacts differently to things, but I was just trying to essentially like fend everyone off, so I wasn't even paying attention when they actually put him in there. But regardless, we all got in our cars to follow the hearse, and obviously the immediate family follows first. So my brother was the one driving, and my sister was driving her car, and my mom and I and my niece and nephew, actually the same nephew from my last video that saw the old woman at the top of the stairs, he was in the same car as me, as well as my niece from my brother's daughter, and my brother, and me and my mom. Anyway, I don't know why I felt the need to tell you all that, but just painting the picture. And so we were going to obviously pull out behind my sister, and there was a guy in my family. He's not related to me directly, but it's kind of like a family friend type vibe. And he jumped out in front of my brother, and my brother got really pissed off about it, because he just felt very like disrespected by it, essentially. And they barely knew each other, so it's not like a long-standing rivalry or anything, but essentially the important thing to know here is that my brother got really pissed off. Then all of a sudden I hear in my dad's voice inside of my head, "Why did he do that?" And then my dad just goes off ranting inside of my head, perfectly clear in his voice, about why this person would do that. That's so like shitty and disrespectful, that he would jump in front of us, and you know, it's not the time to cut someone off at a funeral. You know, all these little rants and raves. And I was just sitting there in my head, and I was like, I am not thinking this. Like, this is not me thinking this, because again, I was too like sad, and I was busy grieving to worry about something like that. And again, during those high intensity moments like that, I am not one to think small things are valid at all. Like, I'm just like, oh, you cut me in line at the movie theater, I don't care. Like, I don't get mad easily, if that makes sense, especially during moments where, again, I'm grieving, I'm having a hard time, I'm, whatever. So I was like, I am not thinking this, but I'm hearing this in my dad's voice. This is like coming through my head. And all through that day, I was hearing his commentary, because they had another like little sermon thing at the actual burial site, and basically just like singing a couple of like his favorite songs and any last things that anyone wanted to say. And I remember him saying, stuff like, oh, that's so sweet, like when people were sharing memories and stuff. I heard him speaking back to what was going on in front of my eyes, people talking. There was even this one time I was walking, it was when we were walking from the little like morgue area. I don't know, it's not the morgue, it's called, mausoleum, that's what it is. I forgot the word for a minute, but it was inside there where we had that little sermon at the actual burial site. So we walked from the mausoleum like building thing to the actual burial, like the grave. And as I was walking, I heard my dad say, watch out, there's a divot. And literally I looked down at my feet, and there was a divot right next to where I was about to step. So I avoided it. And, there was just these little comments, and he had red roses as like his little floral arrangement on top of his casket. And people were pulling them from the thing to throw on top of his grave before they buried him, or the casket, not the grave. And it's so weird to like transport myself back here, because I'm watching this happen again, like inside of my own head. So I feel like I'm almost reliving it to a sense, which I've told this story many times, but for some reason right now I'm like actually there mentally. But anyway, I put the rose and began to throw it, no, that's not what I was going to do. Okay, sorry. I backtracking. So I got a rose to keep for myself. And then I heard my dad say, no, give that one to me. That's what happened. And so that's why I threw it on top of the thing. And everyone else that was throwing roses down there and petals, it all fell off the coffin, the casket. I think it's technically a casket. I don't know the difference, but I think it's a casket. Anyway, they were falling off the top of the casket, and mine landed perfectly on top of it. And everyone was like, whoa, you made it on top of the casket. Whatever, all the kids around and everything was so amazed by it. And I was like, whoa, that is a little weird. But I also got one to keep for myself, and I actually have it like pressed, like I pressed it with a book and framed it over where the spot where that figure from my last video, if you guys saw that, or my last episode, where that figure landed and then disappeared, because again, I associate that so much with like a warning of my dad's death. So, and I heard his little commentary all the way through the point where we crossed the border. He was buried in a different state that I live. It was where he grew up. And all the way until the border where we crossed the bridge to go back into the state where I live. And then I physically heard him say, goodbye, Abby. And then I did not hear him at all, ever. So essentially, my dad possessed me. And again, I don't know how else you can explain that away. And again, it's one of those things where you kind of have to experience it to fully understand the level of it, the intensity of it, because again, it wasn't a situation where I was thinking it, and it was so clear that my brain was not the one thinking these things. I was being told these things. So on to the next thing. There was hold on, I'm trying to read my little notes here because I'm trying to go in chronological order. So there was a time I used to absolutely adore just driving when I first got my license, which again, it was around the same time that my dad died. And I would just like essentially find a road and just keep driving until I made it back to somewhere I was familiar, or I was so lost that I was like, yeah, let me turn on this GPS and get out of here. And one time I pulled up to a literal like mental asylum, and that's not bad in and of itself, but obviously there's a lot of like history and darkness associated with that realm. And I forget what it was called, but it was like Northwest something or another. I forget what it's called. I could probably Google it and look it up, and maybe I'll like post about it or something. Follow my Instagram if you want to. It's at allthingsghostly. Anyway, so I pulled up there, and obviously there was these gates that were closed, and I wasn't gonna go in there. What do you think this is? I wasn't going in there. So even if they were open, I would not have, but they were. And the road was very, very small when I pulled up here, and there was forest all around the sides of this road, but you could tell that it could fit 2 cars like going the opposite direction on that one road, but it would be very, very tight. And basically I started to do a U-turn to get out, but again, because the road was so narrow, I had to keep like backing up back and forth. And again, off to either side there were divots that went down into forest, so it was like a hill. So if I had gone over the edge, my car would have jolted down into the forest, which I did not want to happen. So I was very much so like inching back and forth until I could clear it, and then all of a sudden this freaking truck comes flying down, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the moment that I die. It really is over now. He stopped. Which I don't know why I wasn't expecting him to, but I was like, dude, I'm really about to die right now. What do I do? So he stopped, and I ended up getting around, and then I was so far away from home that my drive home was over an hour. It was like an hour and 15 minutes. And I looked down at my gas tank, and it was on fuel level low. And the best part of all, I had no money. I had no money with me whatsoever. So I couldn't get gas, and I was an hour and some away from home, and I'm a really stubborn person. It takes a lot for me to ask for help, so I wanted to try to make it by myself, and I always do this with everything. Before I ask for help, I always try. I wait until the last minute where I'm like, fudge, I really cannot do this by myself. And I made it because basically on the way home, every time I looked down at my gas tank, it was going up little by little. Yeah. And again, there could be car errors, but I never ran out of gas. For an hour and 15 minutes, starting on fuel level low, I never ran out of gas. And my gas hand, by the time I got on the exit to like go home, or rather off on the exit to go home, it was above a quarter of a tank. So it had went up significantly. And every time throughout that drive that I looked down at it, it was going up more and more and more. And when I got like kind of going on the roads to my home, I passed this little tow truck company, and there was a car that was turning into the tow truck company, and the car was a white car, which I drive my dad's car now. It got handed down to me, but I wasn't driving it that day. And it was a white car, but it very significantly was not his car. Like, it wasn't his car, but it was the same, like, it was a small car that was white. And I looked in it, and this guy looked so much like my dad. It was him. Like, it literally, like, my mind went, I was just like, what the heck? That is my dad right there. Like, and everyone has doppelgangers and, you know, people that look like them, and I could have just been, like, convincing myself to see that. But when he pulled into the tow truck company, they had, like, the garages where you would pull your car in if it needed, like, something. I don't know if they offer, like, other things there, but there was garage places for cars, and then there was a whole row of tow trucks, and he turned into that row of tow trucks, like that direction. He did not turn in the direction of the garage, because I watched him turn in, but then I passed, and when I looked in my rearview mirror, I did not see this car anywhere at all. It was just gone. So that was obviously a little bit creepy, especially right after that happening, like my gas literally like filling itself up. And again, I don't know that there was literally like gas filling up in my car, like literally, but somehow it got me through. And I still think that has to be something paranormal. It just has to, because I don't understand how a car can function for an hour and a half on a low fuel level. Like, I'm getting flustered talking about it. I'm like, how does this even happen? So the next thing I want to go into was several months after my dad died, when my aunt was sadly in the hospital because her cancer relapsed, and we were kind of under the impression that this was going to be the time. And I have a niece, my sister's daughter. I think she was around like 10 or 11 at this point. And she does not like hospitals. She has had a bunch of paranormal experiences as well. And I'm definitely going to make an episode detailing all of the experiences of hers. I'm going to make her like tell me and everything. So that'll be interesting. But she has had paranormal experiences since she was very, very young. And she was around 10 or 11 and she hated hospitals. So I was walking her around, kind of going up and down the elevators, and we went up to the like NICU area where you can see the babies, and in the gift shop and everything. My chair is like squeaking. Anyway, but we went down this one elevator and we were trying to get down to the first floor. We push the button, we go down, we arrive to this like corner of a hospital, and the whole back wall of it was glass, like windows. And it led to the back of the building, kind of where like the furnace would be, like those big like things on top of the building that do something or another. You know what I mean? Like the hardware of the building, if you will. I don't know what to call it, but like where an AC unit and all that stuff would be. And there was literally no other windows, no other doors. It was just this corner of the hospital. And I was looking around and I was questioning, like, how do people get here if they're not coming through this elevator? So the elevator must be the only way to get to like this little back door section of the hospital. Interesting. Okay, whatever. So we go back up the same elevator. We get back on the same floor. Like I think it was the 4th floor is where my aunt was on, not my cousin. Anyway, and when we got back up there, we were like, okay, so what elevator do we use to get to the first floor? Because we pushed floor 1. So we were just kind of assuming that location of that elevator shaft just went down to this back door, whatever. But then we see a nurse with one of those like bins. I think it has like dirty towels and stuff in it that need done, into that same elevator and went down. So I was like, okay, she must be going down there for something, but it's not to access the back door. So I was like, where else would she be taking those towels? Like, why would she need to take them to the back door outside of the building? So we went down there again, and we arrived on the first floor. We were not back in that same corner. We were not at the same place, and we took the same elevator shaft because there were 2 elevators on the same like button where you go to push up or down. There were 2 elevators, but we went down the same elevator shaft, and that nurse went down the same exact elevator that we had just been down. So we took it again and arrived on the first floor, like normal, like where the lobby would be. And we walked there. And then I said, you know what? That's really weird. Maybe we did accidentally take the other elevator or something. I don't know. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So we spent the next like hour trying to get back to that same place, and we could not do it. We absolutely could not do it. And so this isn't reliable, but just a little funny input here. I had what am I saying? I'm getting like brain fog right now. I had an app on my phone, like the Ghost Radar app, so not reliable whatsoever, but it did say college and graduation, which I just graduated from college, or from high school, and was going into college. So I thought that was weird because that's definitely something that my dad would have talked about to me. So I don't know, like logically speaking, why he would send us to this back door where we could never return, but it definitely was something weird going on there. And again, hospitals obviously have a lot of death and everything, so something to definitely consider as ghostly to me, at least, because we tried so hard to get back to that same spot, and we just could not do it. And yeah, that definitely was a day. She was so freaked out. I felt so bad for her, but I just had to turn on that ghost app because at the time it was like the only thing that I could use to access like communication, unless it was just like, you know, real life things that could be interpreted. But the only thing that I could use to actually try to get some sort of specificity out of this spirit or whatever. So it may or may not have been my dad, but I do believe it was definitely paranormal, because I don't know what that little corner was. And again, it's not weird for an elevator to have it, but again, my thinking is, why was there no other doors to different areas in the hospital, and why couldn't we get back there once we came back up and went down that same elevator shaft to the lobby on the first floor? It was so mind-blowing, and I don't know, it almost felt like a universe swap or something, like a time manipulation. I don't know, just very strange, very weird. Let me know if y'all have any theories about any of this stuff, because goodness gracious, I can't even process it now. I'm getting like a headache thinking about all these things, because it definitely was a crazy time in my life. And I don't have a lot of experiences now with him, or that I would associate back to him. And the only reason why I associated the elevator hospital thing with him is because, again, of the graduation and the college coming from that ghost app, because that was very significant. He always said that he would be happy if he just made it to my high school graduation. And he was only 69 when he died, but there was some sketchiness going on with the people that he was involved with. So there's theories of tampering, but they never looked into it, because that's what cops do best. They ignore things. Anyway, so not much happens to me now, but I will say that this year on my birthday, I got in my car, and I always have a difficult time on my birthday, and there's some things that go into that, but bad bitches cry on their birthday. What can I say? So I was having a difficult time, and I basically got in my car to go get my favorite food for the evening. And when I got in my car, I full force, like, I started driving, and I was already crying a little bit just from, again, it being my birthday. I know, I'm a weird specimen. Comment down below if you cry on your birthday. Anyway, but I started driving, and I literally, by the time I pulled out of my neighborhood, I had to like full force pump the brakes, because I smelled the strongest smell of cigarette smoke. And my dad was a very heavy smoker. He literally smoked cigarettes from the age of 5 years old. And yes, you heard that right. 5 years old. And there was nobody else around me at all. My windows were up. There was nobody around me. And I smelled the strongest smell of cigarette smoke, to the point where I started tearing up. Like, it smelled like I was smoking a cigarette in my car. But I smelled cigarette smoke occasionally when he first passed away, so it's a smell that I definitely associate with him. And so immediately my eyes started watering, and I just kind of started talking to him, giving him an update on everything that was happening these past few years, which I always used to do at his gravesite, but because it's a whole state over, it takes like 5 hours to get there, and so I don't get to go as much anymore. But yeah, that was the most recent thing, and again, I don't really get signs and things like that happening to me anymore, so it's always nice to still like have a confirmation that they really do always stay with you. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a situation where after they first initially pass, they stay around for a while, but then they kind of come back as you need them. And even if you don't know that you need them, they know that you do. So if you guys have ever had someone pass in your life, a family member, a friend, a parent, a loved one, whoever, they're still with you. And they send you little signs and symbols, but not everyone receives them, because some people don't, they just explain it away. They don't, actually take in like what it could possibly be. But yeah, that wraps up my paranormal experiences from my dad and all together. So again, if you have not watched the first episode, definitely go do that. It's some more lighthearted, just like spooky ooky type stuff. So yeah, comment down below any theories that you have on any of these, because I'm always open to hearing the what ifs about something. But yeah, and definitely make sure to go to the email in the description to see, or to send in. I'm so like out of it right now. I'm full force in like memory mode. But send in your stories to that email, and so I'll share them on an episode. Yeah, anyway. And again, if you're on any listening app, It'll be in the like episode description. And like I said, follow my Instagram. It's at allthingsghostly. I do have a TikTok as well that I'm going to be planning on posting stuff on, and it is at All Things Ghostly Podcast, because somebody has All Things Ghostly. Why would you do that to me, girl? Anyway, I'm getting a little like speak happy now, so I'm going to go ahead and end this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you for the next one. Also, I need something to call y'all, like ghostly babes, ghost babes, I don't know. We need to start thinking of a name though, but for now, goodbye, and I will see you in my next episode.